So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our next webinar, How to Optimize Your LinkedIn Profile and Attract Employers. Relevance is key. My name is Judith Hart and I'm an employment specialist at Next Steps Employment Center's Mississauga Meadowvale branch. And today, I'd like to walk you through, in a short, maybe 30 minutes format, how to optimize, if you already have a LinkedIn profile, how to make it optimized so that it gets in front of employers. When employers are searching for candidates, how to come up on top of the searches and obviously attract many of them. So before I begin though, I just would like to bring your attention that this webinar is not about filling out your LinkedIn profile. I most likely will have another webinar in which we will go through every single buttons, what they do and the sections and what is required. Today, it's more like, how do we sharpen the saw? How do we, make the good even better? So that's my aim for today. Shall we begin? Before we begin, as usual, I would like you to take some notes. So preparation is needed. Reflect on, what are you going to sort of start, stop, and continue doing. Take those notes and go over them. You can stop the webinar any minute if you need some more time to digest some concept, or you want to go back to something to rehear it or re-listen it. It's all okay. The beauty of webinars is that, hey, you can sit back, relax, perhaps maybe open your LinkedIn and take a look at it and enjoy and relax. Also, we will offer you some tests at the end so that all the concepts that we are mentioning, after you have applied them, you will have the opportunity and chance to test them. So let's go. The learning goal today is that by the end of this webinar, you will understand why optimize. What is this word optimization? What do I have to do with it? And get an overview a little bit on the social media landscape and get into the game. Also get into the head of employers. What are the three major factors they look for? It's basically keyword match, connection strength, and profile strength. So in 3 little easy steps, I will show you how do you make your profile look even better and get in front of the searches that employers are conducting. Also, my goal with you is to basically appear high on the searches, so as high as possible. Also test it, of course, test it with the pros. There's nothing best than to know where am I and what do I need to improve, okay? So what we don't measure doesn't get done, right? Without data, we just have opinion. And I like to base all my assumptions on data. We live in an evidence-based world. I'm pretty sure you've heard it many times. So we are optimizing because obviously it's successful. 132% increase you can get in your profile views if you optimize. 3 times the amount of search appearances you will be actually coming up when employers are looking for the right candidates. So these numbers are from LinkedIn. They conduct the latest research, and it's something to be noted. Okay, so obviously, get on with the game. Get in with the game. We need to get into the game even more so because we have up to 19 recruitment platforms just right now. These platforms keep growing, and currently, according to Overdrive Interactive, which is one of America's largest social media research firm, they claim that there is up to 19 recruitment platforms you can play on. Now, out of those platforms, as you can see, this is not in a rank, by the way, it's just a list, but LinkedIn is ranked number 1 because it currently claims over 66 million users, over 200 plus countries, and it's now the largest talent network now owned by Microsoft. A few years ago, they merged. So you can imagine the immense amount of data that they have now access to, and also the power they hold in terms of candidate search. So getting your moment to shine is not a better time than right now to learn about optimization. Now, before we go ahead and we start understanding what optimization really is, you need to maybe remind it of if you know already, or learn about two marketing concepts. One of them is the push and pull. So you may have heard push because marketing used to be based on pushing your message out there. When you were a company, you know, you pushed it on radio, TV, billboard, newspaper ads, and the same applies to you as a candidate. When you're a candidate, you also push it. You send it out to the big black hole, right? You're sending hundreds of applications, hundreds of resumes out there. And you sometimes wonder, how come no one calls me? Why is my resume ending up in a black hole? Or how come my LinkedIn profile is nobody ever calls me on that, or nobody ever writes me anything? So push doesn't work anymore because there is just so much messaging out there that people shut down. They just can't sort anymore. However, the good news is that a few years ago, when we started to increasingly use internet tools, we call it the Internet of Things, they came about to be, we were able slowly and slowly to build and curate our own content. And this is powerful, folks. It's powerful because now, by creating your own relevant content, which is relevant obviously not only to you, but also to the industry that you try to work at, you create relevancy, you create something of interest. You know, you can post articles, you can write, you perhaps use a professional headshot, you provide evidence that you've done those wonderful things in your career. You may have some recommendations from former bosses and colleagues, people who matter, right? And therefore, you pull people over to you. So it's not so much pushing something out there, but creating interest about you, creating a buzz about you. So pull marketing is acting like a magnet. It generates interest. Optimizing your LinkedIn will generate that. It will generate the demand from employers. You being active will generate energy around you, or as I said, buzz. And of course, using relevant keywords of important topics will bring you to the forefront of searches, because those important topics are also important to the employers. Folks, don't forget that. Why are we getting hired? Why are we even called in for an interview? Is because employers are looking for solutions. They have problems, they have challenges, and they are hoping that we are the ones that, you know, provide those solutions. So if you have this in mind, always, what is the pain point? What is the challenge? What is the focus of my industry, of my potential, you know, companies I want to work for? You will create relevancy and the content that will be interesting for potential employers, because they are looking for the keys. So optimization is really a process, and optimizing your social media will generate that interest, and employers will engage either by phone or by email or through your LinkedIn profile. But in order to that, we sort of need to get into the mind of the employer. So what is it that's important for them? Because guess what? You know, it's not only about you. So a couple of more words on the power of LinkedIn, where optimization is such key. Well, it's number one source of quality hires, that's obvious. However, private referral is still ruling as number one, but among social media, LinkedIn is number one. But make no mistake, you still have to focus yourself all your attention or most of your attention on building relationships, because private referrals are still, especially in Toronto or in the GTA, that's like a hidden job market right now. You definitely need those private referrals. But when it comes to social media platforms, and you saw how many are there, 19 of them so far, number one source of quality hires is LinkedIn. Over 75% of people who recently changed jobs use LinkedIn to inform their career decision. So that means that the platform really works. The matches are made, and whether you're a career changer or whether you are unemployed right now, the platform works for you. The other thing I'd like to really point out from here is just that the top recruiters are 60% more engaged with LinkedIn recruiting tools versus average recruiters. So you want to work with the top recruiters. You want to get picked up. You want to be found. You want to be noticed. You want to be engaging with the wholesaler, as we call them, right? Top recruiters are wholesalers. They hold a lot of contacts. So, hey, why not? So let's get into the mind of the employer. And at this point, I'd like you to stop for a second, take out your notepad, and write down this YouTube title, because after the webinar, you're able to search it and listen to it in all its 6 minutes entirety. I'm just showing this. I took a screenshot from it just with the three main key points that I'd like to go over with you in more detail. So the title of this YouTube that I found very useful, because it got into the mind of the employer and how great it is when they are telling you exactly what and how they do it. How to rank LinkedIn search results by prioritizing search results. So the title is How to Rank LinkedIn Search Results. I'd like you, after the webinar, as I said, go on YouTube and listen to it. But for now, look at the 3 key points on the screen. Keyword match, connection strength, and profile strength. These are the 3 main focus on average of any employer that looks for the right candidates, and they call it, when they use technology like LinkedIn, relevancy algorithm. Okay, so among the relevancy algorithm, they expect keyword match, connection strength, profile strength to bring up the top or the best candidates to select from. Now you're gonna go, what? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have news to tell you. Your profile is not just about you. It's at least 50% about the company or the industry or your potential employer. So please definitely make sure that your head is shifted into, okay, my life is huge. My work life is also huge. But what is relevant to my industry? What is relevant to the particular job that I need to feature, because they want to know, they want to hear, okay? So about 50%, try to think of the employer in mind. What are the things that they might need from you? Okay, we'll get into detail in a second. Okay, so let's start with the first one, keyword match or keyword search. As we call it, applicant tracking system, ATS for short. We are living in the age of technology, and job searches are now conducted at least 98% according to Forbes and JobScan both by applicant tracking systems. Without technology, companies would be actually bottlenecked. They are unable to reply to every single candidates and sort by themselves. They need to bring in technology to manage the entire recruitment process, sorting, storing, parsing those resumes, and also parsing your LinkedIn profile in order to establish the ranking. So applicant tracking system is short for ATS. And what it really does is it's a scanner connected to a software. And every single company programs this software the way they deem it's best. So we will never know 100% how each and every company will program these softwares, but what we can tell is that when we have a job posting in front of us, as you can see on the screen on the left, and we highlight all the most important traits, skills, that the company requires, and if we match that with our resume and we have those capabilities and we have those backgrounds, and of course we are authentic and truthful and honest, then if we meet at least 10-15 keywords and showcase on our resumes, the algorithm on the right will actually, how should I say, rank, establish the ranking, and will rate us in terms of how important, how strong of a candidate we are. So I don't really know much more about it because employers do not share these informations, but I know that the technology a little bit, and I can apply my logic and say most employers told us that if there is 10-15 keywords, at least, but 20 of course is better, then there is a pretty good case scenario that you will be called in, and actually a human person will see your resume, and you're invited to an interview. So these keywords, we can think about them as bridges to the employers. So they are extremely important. Think of keywords like you're looking for something on Google, you want to go on a holiday and you're looking for something, and you type in the certain keywords, the type of holidays that you're looking for. And as soon as you hit enter, there pops up a whole bunch of choices ranked based on the words that companies have put on their websites, so that matches your search criteria. So it's that simple. So my job is to make sure that, go back again one slide, just to make sure, to make sure that you understand your job posting, you highlight the most important parts in it, and you will feature them on your resume. As I said many, many times, we want to say so many things in those resumes, but are you relevant? And the same with LinkedIn profile. You look at the job posting, mainly on LinkedIn, they have very good job postings there, wide variety. And you're going to look at your profile and you're going to try to match 10-15 keywords minimum. Now, keywords alone won't increase your visibility, but you want to make sure that the words employers are looking for are the ones that show up on your profile as part of your own branding strategy. So we will look at other things like, connection, how many connections you have and how robust is your profile. So that's why I'm saying keyword is not everything. However, keywords are extremely important because literally, you can even check whether your keywords are working well, whose searches you're coming up in. So what you see on the screen right now is actually a LinkedIn part of your dashboard. So when you look at your profile on the front page and you start scrolling, you will hit right away the dashboard. So please check that frequently, because on this dashboard, you have the 3 different categories. Who has viewed your profile? How many post views you had if you, let's say, wrote an article, and how many search appearances you appeared in. Now, when you scroll down in this, that's when you get to your keywords, okay? Keywords your searchers used. This is hugely important. So what we are seeing here on the screen is a dashboard and keywords your searches used for an editor and writer. So this editor and writer does something really well, because as we can see from the screen, writer was one of the words that his or her searchers used, employers. LinkedIn and profiles, because they were looking at LinkedIn profiles, obviously. Edit, that came up, and linked and writer. So maybe he can still improve it a little bit more, but it's pretty much focused on that. For personally myself, I can tell you a little bit about my own profile. I was interested in, well, previously in my career, I was in marketing. So marketing and communication, and now I'm in training and coaching. So obviously, currently, because my profile is featuring so much marketing in it and background in it, marketing and communication comes up a lot. So I come up in, searches for advertising agencies. But if I needed to change that in the future, I can test it all the time and I can see, okay, am I coming up based on coaches search or trainer or employment specialist or anything like that. So you can test this, the beauty of this, every single day, and I recommend that you do that. What's in your statistics? It's a tell all. Who viewed your profile? What are they looking for? And here, although I'm not selling LinkedIn upgrades, but you can get way more information out of your dashboard, particularly who viewed your profile when you upgrade to LinkedIn Premium. So the golden sign is the LinkedIn Premium, and it also shows more information about the search appearances. So perhaps you want to check that out. It's a little bit of an investment, but just as is, if you don't pay for it and you just have a free profile, but you're doing things really well, these are the informations you can get as a feedback on how your keywords are doing. Okay, so that basically sums up the first part. If you want to take a break, perhaps open your LinkedIn and check out your keywords. I recommend that you go into your searches and the dashboard, and look at your keyword searches. How did they search for you? All right, so maybe perhaps take a break. All right, folks, so let's move on to the second point: connection strength. It's extremely important for employers that you have a rich community around you. And if some of you are as old as I am, then you remember the 1980s and 90s, that during interaction with them potential employers, they were always somehow asking, so how is your Rolodex? And we don't have any more Rolodexes, but Rolodex was that business card holder that we used to collect business cards in. But the employer kind of, in a polite way, tried to size up, how are you connected? How rich is your network? And are you embedded in a particular community, maybe perhaps focusing on that industry? So in the modern age now, with Internet of Things, of course, this can be checked so easily, because LinkedIn is providing us with rich opportunities to build connections in the first and the second degree. So on the illustration on the right, you will see yourself here. I'm showing with the cursor slowly, nicely. And Joe, Mary, and Paul. Joe, Mary, and Paul also knows a whole bunch of other people. So between you and Joe, Mary, and Paul, you're the first degree connection. And it's assumed kind of that the first degree is your strongest. So I believe these are your former colleagues, maybe supervisors, maybe professors that taught you. The strength of that connection is pretty strong, close to maybe 100%. And we measure it in trust, because networking is based on trust. So the second degree is, who do they know? And all the way we can go back to 6 degrees, and there are research that is showing that up to 6 degrees, everybody and anybody can get connected somehow on this planet Earth. But we won't go into that now. That would be a little too much. I'm just right now focusing on the first and the second degree connection. And mainly in terms of optimizing your resume, all my messages for you today is quality versus quantity is key, and that's number one rule. I don't want you to build your community just because 250 more people. Having said that, I have thousands, because I worked in industries where lots of people work. So, coming from the advertising marketing industry, maybe you did too, you have access to hundreds of people that you worked with in groups. That's a different story. But believe you me, quantity is not as important as quality, because quality is what? Right now you have a job to do. You need to get a job. You're interested in getting acquainted and getting to know more decision makers. So it needs to be more focused and more pointed towards the particular industry connections that you want to get in. So quality is really industry type, and also the ranking of the individuals, the decision makers that you're trying to get in front of. But having said that, not just decision makers can get you into a job situation or an engagement. Basically anyone could be interested or important. But I'm saying involve decision makers as well, because chances are you worked 4 or 5 companies before, and you have maybe 4 or 5 former bosses that probably would be delighted to get to know you online. So check out quality versus quantity is key. And if you have only 5 connections or under 100 connections, that's pretty weak. Employers will not be too delighted about that, because it basically shows you're not really active in that industry. Okay. Focus on your target, build it at least beyond 100 people, and stay open but very strategic about it. Right now you have a goal to reach, right? So build that community. You're richer than you think, and all those former alumni and connections you worked with, they could be a key to you, because life changes. As we can see, life really changes. So people move on, people create new opportunities, and as they move, you can move with them and have access to those opportunities. So please do make sure that you build up your profile at least minimum 100, but I really would love to see at least 300, 400, 500 connections if you can, of the quality type. Okay. Now we arrived at the third and last point I'd like to make today is profile strength. And profile strength, it's a very big area, because it's basically everything that you upload onto your LinkedIn. How do you fill up your profile? So today we are not talking, as I'm repeating myself from the first slide, we are not talking about every single button and what it does and the sections as they roll out, like your online resume. But I'd like to keep that for another workshop, because it's so big that it needs its own kind of webinar on itself. But I just would like to give you a bit of an overview of what employers mean profile strengths in terms of optimization. And I'm using a sample picture here from LinkedIn that was provided on the LinkedIn blog, which I recommend you read as well. They have a lot of useful information there. But basically, the organizing principle is fill out every single areas. I don't care if it's a photo, an introduction, a work achievement, or education, skills, case studies, referrals, volunteering, memberships you have, groups you belong to, or recommendations that you got. You need to fill it up for 2 reasons. Number 1 is, of course, you will get more robust keyword search results, so you will actually appear in more searches. But secondly, LinkedIn is an algorithm, and any algorithm, it reads data. It's like 011 right? So it's computer language. When it reads that something is filled up, it automatically ranks you higher because it thinks it's more important. Now, the funny thing is that in this example, behind this lady, there is no picture, which I'm contradicting right now myself. I just realized, but I recommend that you even fill that up with a picture of your industry, because as I said, algorithms are computers that count. So it counts dots, it counts whether it's that particular area is filled or not, and just sheerly based on that one information, you can get a higher ranking. I haven't even mentioned the keywords yet, okay? So please do make sure that you fill up the profile. And at the next webinar, I will show you, if you're new to this, how to. And if you are not new to this, I will still have information for you. How can you make your good profile even better? Okay. Last but not least, I'd like to draw your attention to a wonderful American website called JobScan, and it's called jobscan.co. But when you go on it, currently you can't access it because we bought memberships for our clients at Next Steps Employment Centers. So you can learn a lot from it, but to test your resume or test your LinkedIn profile, you will need to have an access through our offices. So what I recommend you do is after this webinar, you upgrade your profile, you make sure everything is filled out, you make sure your keywords are powerful, and you have enough connections. And then when you feel ready, you can call your employment advisor or send an email and make sure that she or he will open the access for you and will actually test your profile and get back to you. Okay, so what is your profile score? Scores are normally good above 75, 80. Having said that, I've never seen a 100% profile. I've never even seen a 95. For some reason, JobScan doesn't even have 100%. So funny it is, they wrote in one of their blogs. However, when you test it, you are able to retest it and improve it and retest it again. And once you do that, 3 times your LinkedIn reach and impact today will happen if you improve it based on JobScan's recommendation. It's another pair of eyes. It's amazing. So I recommend that you give it some thought. Now, before we start optimizing our profiles, just as a bit of a warning to you or an advice, I took a social media course and I found this very, very important that they let me know to even think about it strategically. It's 5 points that basically you can adopt as your social media principles or habits moving forward. And the 5 is simply listening or socially listening before you post anything. Make sure that you are, researching enough to understand your industry really well and the companies and the language they use. Second is building trust, which is basically, being there and being there regularly so that that trust can be built, and saying similar things of similar value and showing similar pictures to build that trust. Engaging is basically that you are there frequently enough that they can see you and they have an opportunity to engage with you. And always leave your posting with a question mark. A question mark will help you to, get engaged, because you're throwing a question out there. Obviously, it's like a ping pong. You're going to wait for an answer. Once the answer comes, bang, you're engaging. Also, being authentic is important, which means, well, authentic is that you also voice your own opinion with caution, of course, but something inspiring, something creative. Maybe you have ideas on how to solve a certain problem, or about an innovation happening. Post it, be authentic. Don't always just repost other people's information, but your own. Employers want to hear your own voice. What's your voice, right? And of course, stay connected. So as many people as you can and as often as you can, stay in touch with your network. You already have a big one, and as I mentioned, you're richer than you think. So as a little exercise after this webinar, you can sort of have a bit of an internal dialogue with yourself and say, okay, Judith is talking about these 5 social media principles, but how am I faring at this? Because how can you improve something when you don't measure? You don't even have an opinion about how am I doing currently. So in order to build a better portfolio and LinkedIn profile, these are the things that I would like to also go really deeply into at the next webinar, when we actually will focus on what areas of LinkedIn I need to fill in and how, and what are those buttons all for. But this is just a little warm up to that one, okay? So you can expect something from me coming later. So as a summary, really what I was talking about, how you're using the platform and how employers rate you, and what are the three major points that they are going to evaluate you for: the keywords, the connection strengths, and the profile strength. Because believe it or not, you're leaving a digital footprint. This is a very high language, but I love this language because it's so inspiring and so interesting, creative. What do I mean by digital footprint? Well, basically, anything you do, you touch the keyboard, it's registered, right? So any information you put online about a person, yourself in this case, either posted by that person or others, intentionally or unintentionally, filling out a form, leaving a blog comment, updating your status, checking into a location, emailing a friend, posting a photo, visiting a website, using a search engine. Everything you do online leaves a trail, and employers can obviously read it. And this trail is called the digital footprint. So folks, it's not that hard, but I think the number one thing is you need to have is a mind shift. You need to shift your thinking into, okay, what am I going to watch out for? And at least I'm going to watch out for these things at all, because sometimes we are just kind of in a default mode, right? Oh, I'm just going to post this quickly. No, I'd like you to be mindful from this point on moving forward, and mind your digital footprint. Optimize, attract employers, and the right employers you want. It can be done. So thank you, folks, for listening. I'm looking forward to lots of great LinkedIn profile optimizations. For more information, please contact any of our 7 Next Steps employment centers across the GTA by visiting our website, or book your appointment with the branch nearest to you, www.next-steps.ca. And thank you for listening. Look forward to talking to you soon.